Hello. Please tell us where you are from and how old you are. We are very interested in learning more about our audience. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and like the video. Enjoy listening. The bank statement lay on the kitchen table like an open wound with no bandage to cover it. The amount was 1,547,000 rubles. Flowers, banquet, hall rental, all of this was paid for with my card. The very same card that I once, in a moment of weakness, gave to Lena, just in case. 3 years ago. For emergencies. Only, for some reason, when I thought of the word emergency, I imagined a bride in a white dress, holding fresh roses. Not something like a trip to the emergency room, medicine, or a broken refrigerator. I ran my finger over the lines, each line like a small prick. The Enchanted Garden, the Flower Salon, 290,000. The Lastochka Restaurant, 770. Morozov Catering, 430. Tears welled up, but I didn't let them fall. I am 62. It's high time to understand that children's love can also be theatrical. The house was empty. Spacious, but not cozy. It was as if the walls remembered other times, but no longer believed they would return. Nikolai's armchair was still by the window. It had been 4 years since he passed away, but I hadn't put away any of his things. Partly because it hurts. And partly because it feels like if I don't touch anything, he's still somewhere nearby. Because back then, someone needed me. Back then, I belonged to someone. And now, I just exist. The phone vibrated on the kitchen counter, the one Nikolai had installed on our anniversary. Marble, to last forever, he said. Messages from Lena. Mom, please come by. For groceries, we're running late with these wedding things. As usual. Thank you. As usual. As if I were a servant. As if 1.5 million rubles didn't count. As if I don't count. I turned my phone screen down. I looked at the statement again. In my head. As if by itself, the calculation went. Pension, 28,000. Minus utilities, food, medicine, transportation. 4,500 left. Even if I put all of that toward Lena's debt, it would take years to pay it off. At that moment, the front door slammed. And almost immediately, I heard heavy footsteps in the hallway. Andrei. My son. He came back 6 months ago, after his divorce. He said, Mom, it's temporary, until I get back on my feet. He is 34 years old. And temporary has long since become his way of life. Mom, I'm taking the car tonight, he shouted from the hallway, without even bothering to come into the kitchen. Alina and I are going to look at an apartment in Severny. Alina is his new girlfriend. She's about 10 years younger than him. Apparently, she does yoga. She makes herself at home in our house, scattering crystals all over the apartment and waving some kind of sticks around. I'm allergic to these smells, and anyway, it's not very comfortable. I mentioned it to Andrei once, calmly. He just waved it off, saying, Mom, you're so old-fashioned. We're not here for long. I sighed and called out, Andrei, come here, please. He appeared in the doorway, already looking annoyed. His hair was tousled, and he was wearing the jeans I had given him for New Year's, the expensive, nice ones. Back then, I still hoped that something would make him happy. What is it? I'm in a hurry. I silently unfolded the statement and pointed with my finger. Did you know about this? He glanced at it and immediately looked away. I recognized that look. He had that look when he was 10, when he took cookies from the jar and thought no one could see him. What are you talking about? Lena took 1.5 million from my card. For the wedding. He shrugged as if we were talking about a carton of milk. And I felt cold. Well, yes, she mentioned something. Mom, it's just money. You have your pension, your house. Why are you getting so worked up? Lena is having a hard time as it is. She's carrying everything herself, they're worried. It's just money. I didn't even notice how harsh my voice had become. It was my rainy day fund. But it's like behind them, he interrupted, looking at his nails. She'll pay it back. It's okay. You're not poor. You live in your own house, without a mortgage. You're fine. I looked at him and didn't understand where the boy who used to tell me his dreams before bedtime was. Where was the man for whom I got into debt, help with business, fed after the divorce, accepted, supported, forgave? And now he's standing here, in my kitchen, where I pay for everything. And he says that my money doesn't matter. I took a breath and asked about Lena's dinner party, when it was. Andre froze. What? Dinner? I wasn't invited. Or did I miss something? Pause. Long. He looked away. Well, it seems they already had it. It was a small gathering. You know Lena likes everything to be modest, family-oriented. That's a lie. I knew it. Because it's not the first time. Birthdays without me, grandchildren's parties that I find out about on social media, family photos without my face. Mom, you don't like how you look in photos. I understand, I said quietly. I folded the statement carefully. And I'm invited to the wedding. Well, of course, Mom, what are you talking about? Don't start. You're being dramatic. Everything as usual. The keys are on the hook, I said calmly. Bring the car back before midnight. Andre took the keys. He paused at the door. For a second, I thought he was about to say something. To apologize, perhaps. But he just muttered, Lena is staying tonight. We'll try not to be noisy. The door slammed. I was left alone. With papers, a phone, and the feeling that I had been erased from the lives of those for whom I had lived. I slowly walked over to Nikolai's chair. I sat down. It was hard. Everything was the same in the yard. Tamara Nikolaevna was watering the flower beds across the street, and the neighbors' children were riding their bikes. Normal families. Normal relationships. And I only have bills and emptiness. My phone vibrated. Lena again. I forgot to mention. Can you pay the prepayment for the catering? It's about 180,000. Dad's insurance should be enough, right? You're the best. Dad's insurance. The very one that was supposed to be my protection in my old age. For a nurse, for the hospital, for medicine. If suddenly, and now, for cake and waiters. I stared at the message for a long time. Then I deleted it. Without a reply. For the first time in 34 years. But inside, I knew it wouldn't end there. Sitting in Nikolai's chair, in the house where no one could hear me now, I suddenly realized it was time to act. If they only see me as a source of money, it's time to show them what it's like when that source dries up. I folded the statement. For the last time. Tomorrow I'll call. Today, I'll just sit with my memories. With myself. With silence. And suddenly it no longer seemed empty. It became a beginning. Light streamed through the curtains as if something had changed. I woke up at 5 in the morning. Easily, without an alarm clock, without anxious thoughts, as if something inside had clicked into place. For the first time in many months, I slept peacefully. Peacefully, because I finally made up my mind. I will no longer be silent, I will no longer endure, I will no longer wait for someone to suddenly understand on their own. Today, my debriefing will begin. By morning, I was already dressed. With a cup of coffee in my hands and a notebook where I had written down what needed to be done first. The first item on the list was the bank. I dialed the number, my voice calm and clear. Hello. I need to report some unauthorized charges. The card is in my name, but my daughter used it without my knowledge. The girl on the other end of the line was surprisingly polite. She said they would block the card immediately. Yes, you can dispute the transactions. Yes, you will need to provide the exact dates and amounts. Yes, they will start an internal investigation. But you must understand, she added, if it is established that the card was used without the owner's consent, a criminal case may be initiated. I understand, I said. And I really did understand. The second check mark, the savings book. I called the branch where I have my account and clearly stated that one of the users needed to be removed. My son, Andre. He was added as a trusted person 2 years ago. Now I want to revoke his access completely. The operator didn't even ask for any additional details. He calmly checked my passport details, asked 2 or 3 questions, and that was it. The card that Andre used to pay for his temporary expenses no longer worked. They said it would be invalid by noon. I didn't even feel fear. Just an amazing calmness. The third check mark, the lawyer. I dialed Marina Lvovna's number. The same woman who handled Nikolai's affairs when he was ill. Smart, reserved, no sentimentality. I liked her. Galina. I heard her voice. We hadn't seen each other in a long time. Something serious? I need to update the will, I said. And also, consult about the unauthorized use of the card. We agreed to meet after lunch. It was 9 a.m. I was sitting in my car across from my old school, where I had worked for 32 years. Elementary school, 3rd grade. I watched as parents walked their children to school, carrying backpacks and lunchboxes. Ordinary, lively families. With their own worries. Like I once had? The phone rang. Lena. I didn't answer. She called again. Then again. On the 4th call, I answered. Mom, thank God. I'm going crazy. The flower shop called, they say the payment didn't go through. You blocked your card. Yes, I replied calmly. What? Why? The wedding is in 6 weeks. We've already booked everything. We need to make the payment urgently, the restaurant, the photographer, the makeup artist, the dress. Mom, what are you talking about? I know, I said. Pause. And then in her voice, that same tone she had used when I was a teenager. Fake softness, as if she were asking for something small, and not owing me $1.5 million. Mom, let's not make a mountain out of a molehill. You said it was a card for emergencies. And a wedding is an emergency. If we don't pay on time, everything will fall apart. Your wedding is not my emergency, Lena. Silence. A long silence. I could hear her breathing. She's thinking. Choosing the right words to make me give in again, as always. Mom, you want me to be happy. This is my only wedding. Don't you want to help? There it is, the formula that has kept me going for 34 years. You want me to be happy, don't you? You love us, don't you? You're not going to abandon me, are you? I want you to pay for your own wedding, I replied. Like grown-ups do. But we can't afford it. We're already in debt. So the wedding has to be within your means, I said. That's all. I hung up. The phone rang again. I turned off the ringer. At 11 o'clock, I was standing in a hardware store, choosing new locks. The salesman, a man in his 70s, an acquaintance with whom we had exchanged a few words in line more than once, helped me carry them to the car. Changing locks is easier than it looks, he said. There are plenty of video tutorials on the internet. They show you everything step by step. I thanked him. I returned home. And then I saw Andre's car in the yard. On the porch was Alina's yoga mat. And the smell of her herbs, heavy and stifling, stung my eyes. They were in the kitchen. Alina was making herself a smoothie from my supplies, and Andre was sitting at the table, buried in his phone. Mom, finally. My card isn't working. And Lena can't find you. She's panicking. Some wedding payment was declined, I know, I said, putting my bag on the table. I blocked access to both the account and the card. Alina turned away from the blender. Oh, Galina Pavlovna, you scared us. Andre and I were already wondering if you were having a stroke or something. With such drastic decisions. A 26-year-old girl living off someone else's money had an opinion about my finances. Alina, I said calmly, pack your things. It's time for you to leave. She even laughed. Are you nervous? What? Why? Because this is my house. And you don't live here. Andre looked up from his phone. Mom, what's wrong with you? You seem to have lost your mind. This is Alina. She is a close friend of mine. And she will stay here, whether you like it or not. Not anymore. He stood up. His face was red, stubborn, like when he was a child. Mom, stop it. This is nonsense. You're going too far. You're destroying our family over some card. I'm just not going to feed grown adults anymore, I replied calmly. You're not my children, you're parasites. Alina froze. Smoozy stopped. Maybe I should leave? She asked quietly. Yes, I nodded. That's a good idea. Andre flushed. If she leaves, so do I. It was said defiantly. Like when he was 20 and threatened to go to his father if I didn't buy him a new phone. But I didn't care anymore. I took a sip of coffee, strong, no sugar, just how I like it. It was as if that movement put an end to it. It's your choice, I said. But if you leave, there's no turning back. There won't be, Mom. Sit with the kids, there won't be. Transfer a couple thousand by Friday. No, I can stay with you. If you leave, it means you live on your own. He realized I wasn't bluffing. Mom, let's not get nervous. We'll just talk. You're upset about the money. Well, sorry, it happens. But to ruin everything over some amount of money. When did Lena ever give me anything back? I asked. When did she give me money for driving school? For her rented apartment? For her master's degree? Did she ever give me anything back? He was silent. I looked at Alina. She was already packing her things. As if she was in a hurry to leave before I changed my mind. It's all because of Dad's death that you've become like this, Andre stammered. No, I said. I've become like this because I've let you live off me for too long. That's all. I won't allow it anymore. He pressed his lips together. He took his jacket. Don't think we'll come crawling back. You'll be left alone. You'll regret it later. I smiled. Not an angry smile. A calm one. Goodbye, Andre. The door slammed. And I was left in the kitchen. Alone. In silence. But it was a different kind of silence now. Not like before, with resentment, pain, emptiness. This was freedom. I picked up my bag. I went to change the locks. This time for real. By 3 o'clock in the afternoon, the new locks were already installed. I checked twice, everything worked perfectly. No misalignment. The lock clicked quietly and reliably. It was as if not just a door had closed, but a whole chapter of my life. I kept one set of keys for myself. I put the second set in a box, where Nikolai's wedding ring still lies. Let it be close by. By 4 o'clock, I was at Marina Lvovna's office. It was the same office as 4 years ago, when we had filled out the paperwork after my husband's death. An old building, a leather armchair, the smell of wood and paper. Something stirred inside me, but not in pain. In calmness. Marina greeted me as always, composed, stern, with her hair slicked back and attentive eyes that missed nothing. Galina Pavlovna, come in. You sounded worried on the phone. Tell me what happened. I spoke without fuss, without pause. About how Lena had withdrawn $1.5 million from my card without permission. About how Andre lives with me, with everything ready for him, without contributing a penny, with a girl who considers my house her own. About how I was excluded from family events, while continuing to be their bank and servant. Marina took notes, sometimes asking for clarification, her face becoming increasingly stern. How long has this been going on? She asked when I finished. For years, I replied. But after Nikolai's death, it got worse. It's as if I'm now a void. Or, on the contrary, an ATM. Soulless. Like, since you're alone anyway, you can take as much as you want. And no one will ask any questions. Marina took off her glasses and looked straight at Galina. This is called financial abuse. Especially from adult children. What you have described could well be considered abuse of trust and even a form of pressure. Do you want to file a complaint? No. I shook my head immediately. I don't want a criminal case or a scandal. I just want them to understand that this can't go on. I want to set a boundary. Honestly, calmly, but clearly. Okay, she nodded. Let's update the will first, and then discuss how to legally secure your property. My old will, drawn up shortly after Nikolai's death, was standard. The house, savings, insurance proceeds, divided equally between Lena and Andrei. Andrei was appointed executor. We're changing everything, I said. I want to give the house and half of the funds to charity. And what remains will only be given if the children return everything they took with the promise to return it later. And only after they return it. Marina raised her eyebrows but wrote it down silently. Where exactly do you want to transfer part of the property? A literacy charity, the one where I used to volunteer. Also, an animal shelter. And maybe an organization that helps elderly people without families. I said it calmly. But inside, I was boiling. Elderly people without families. How ironic. Because formally, I do have a family. But in reality, it's as if I never had one. We will appoint me as the executor. Marina clarified. Yes. I trust you. You're strict. And you listen to me. She smiled slightly. Okay. Now, about the card charges. I think the bank will refund some of the money. But you have to be prepared for the children to react negatively. They already have. They've been calling non-stop since this morning. Andrei left home with his girlfriend, Alina. He said I was ruining everything. That I had destroyed the family. Marina nodded. A classic reaction from those who are used to getting away with everything. You're not destroying the family, Galina. You refuse to be convenient. As if on cue, the phone rang again. Lena. I pressed the reject button. She's already called 13 times, I said. She's crying. She says everything is falling apart for her. That I'm ruining everything. May I give you some advice? Marina asked. If the pressure starts, save all the messages. And consider temporarily limiting communication so you don't lose your temper. You've only just begun to establish new boundaries. And that's the most difficult stage. I nodded. When I left the office, it was almost 6 o'clock. The documents are being processed. The application to the bank has been accepted. The will is being revised. Access to the accounts has been blocked. The door locks have been replaced. I walked down the street feeling like I was breathing differently. Not easier, but deeper. On the way back, I stopped at the store and bought just for myself a small chicken fillet, fresh vegetables, and a bottle of white wine that I had been saving for a special occasion. And suddenly I realized that this was it. The first day when I was important to myself, they were just like a mother, grandmother, helper, donor, or safety net. When I entered the house, it was especially quiet. But not deafeningly so, not oppressively so, but as if it were calm. The crystals of Alina had disappeared. There were no dirty dishes, scattered chargers, or scattered things. Her scent from those sticks no longer hung in the air. The air was fresh, like after a thunderstorm. I chopped the vegetables, put the chicken in the oven, and opened the wine. And then there was a quiet knock on the back door. Through the glass, I saw my neighbor. The one I always just said hello to over the fence. Tamara Nikolaevna. From the blue house, 2 lots away. In her hands, a casserole dish. I opened the door, slightly surprised. Sorry for not ringing the bell, she said, a little embarrassed. I just heard a lot of noise coming from your place this morning. Commotion. Then I saw a young man leaving with a suitcase. I thought, well, anyway, are you okay? I was taken aback for a second. We had lived next door to each other for so many years, waving to each other, exchanging a few words about the weather. And now suddenly she was standing in front of me with a hot casserole and kind eyes. Thank you, Tamara Nikolaevna. To be honest, it wasn't the easiest day. But I'm coping. She nodded. Would you like some company while you cope? I baked a lasagna, and it turned out to be a lot. And eating alone, I'm tired of it. I thought for a second. And then I said, I just opened a bottle of wine. Join me. Then I'll run and get the glasses, she replied, as if it had already been decided. 40 minutes later, we were sitting in my kitchen. It felt cozy, as if we had known each other all our lives. The lasagna was excellent. The wine was just right. Tamara told me that she was also a widow. Her husband had died 3 years ago from the same disease as Nikolai. Her children had moved to other cities. They call on Sundays, she said. They ask if I've eaten, if I'm taking my pills. Are they on schedule? Check, talk to Mom. At least they call, I sighed. Mine only call when they need something. And suddenly I told her everything. As if it were a burden on my soul. About Lena, about the card, about the wedding. About how I wasn't even invited to the engagement party. About how I woke up and realized I just couldn't do it anymore. She listened silently. She didn't interrupt once. She just nodded sometimes. Sometimes she pressed her lips together. She understood everything. When I finished, she asked, How do you feel now? I sighed. Scared. But also free. And a little ashamed that I feel good. The shame will pass, she said confidently. But this feeling will only get stronger. I know. How do you know? She smiled. Wrinkles appeared on her face, but they weren't from fatigue. They were from laughter. From a living person. My sister and I had the same thing. Not money, but manipulation. I tried my whole life, swallowed it, gave in. And then I stopped. And you know what I regret? What? That I didn't do it sooner? The phone vibrated. Lena again. Mom, please call me. I don't know what to do. I'm scared. I understand that you're angry. But you yourself said that the card could be used in an emergency. This was an emergency. Please don't punish me like this. I silently showed Tamara the message. She read it carefully. Everything is according to the template, she said calmly. Look, I'm scared. I didn't know. You yourself said not to punish me. Not a word, but guilt. Only about how you hurt her. I looked again. And suddenly I saw how cleverly it was all constructed. She's playing the victim again. She's shifting the blame onto me again. Even in her apology, she's trying to manipulate me. What would you do? I asked. Tamara shrugged. How do you feel about it? I looked at the screen. Word by word. Fear. Guilt. Pressure. But now, it was as if I was seeing it from the outside. I just pressed delete. No answer. Right. Tamara nodded. And poured more wine. Tamara and I sat until late in the evening, talking about books, Duchess, loneliness after 60, and how difficult it is to live when you are perceived not as a person, but as a convenient helper. She said that when her sister stopped answering the phone and only communicated through mutual friends, it was hard. But after a couple of months, something appeared that hadn't been there for many years. The feeling that you belong to yourself. I listened to her and recognized myself. When she left, I washed the glasses. I cleared the table and suddenly caught myself thinking that I felt good. For the first time in a long time. And then the phone rang. Andre. Mom, his voice was completely different. Quieter. No longer irritated, no longer pressuring me. Maybe we started off on the wrong foot this morning. Listen, Alina and I are staying at her place for now. But I thought, maybe we should talk? I'm listening. The card. Well, you blocked it. I was looking for change in the car for lunch and paid with coins. You could have at least warned me. It's not humane. Silence. I wasn't going to explain myself. I just listened. Lena, by the way, is also on edge. She's crying. The wedding is in jeopardy, the restaurant is demanding extra payment. If they don't pay by Friday, they'll cancel the reservation. Everything is falling apart. I sympathize, I said calmly. Pause. Mom, I don't understand. You're acting like a stranger. You're not like that. You always saved everyone. You're a pillar of support. And now, I interrupted, I've finally become myself. The person I always wanted to be, but didn't allow myself to be. He fell silent. I could feel him on the other end of the line, trying to find the right words to make everything go back to the way it was. So that I would lend a shoulder again. But it's too late. So what now? Are we not talking anymore? We can talk, I replied. But the conversations will be different. What do you mean? Without money. No demands. No games. You're my mother, you have to. Only as adults. Or not at all. Mom, you talk as if we were some kind of criminals. Didn't you behave like criminals? Silence. Heavy silence. I need to think. He finally said. Think as long as you need, I replied. But I'm no longer the one you can come back to when it's convenient. I hung up the phone. And suddenly I realized that I wasn't hurt. Just empty. But in a good way. Later, closer to nightfall, I sat in the kitchen and looked out the window. An empty street, light from a street lamp, roses under the balcony. And the feeling that everything was moving, slowly, but in the right direction. The next morning, it all started with a siege. At 5 a.m, Lena. The car stopped in front of the house, and she was in a dress. In a coat, without makeup, her eyes swollen. She sat on the bench, tucking her legs under her like a schoolgirl. I took my time. I made myself some coffee. I made a sandwich. I sat with her at the table. Only then, at 8:30, did I go out onto the porch. Mom, her voice was hoarse. I'm here. I couldn't sleep. I feel bad. Everything is falling apart. I don't understand why you're doing this. Good morning, Lena. You look, to put it mildly, unwell. She stood up. She swayed. I haven't eaten anything since last night. I'm panicking. The restaurant refused to hold the reservation. That's it, it's over. We've been preparing for 2 years and now it's all gone to waste. I just don't understand why you're treating me like this. I'm not doing anything to you, Lena. I just stopped doing everything for you. We've lost everything, Mom, everything. And again, tears. But not tears of grief, tears of resentment. Like a capricious child. I looked closely at her face. And suddenly I realized that in front of me was not a grown woman, not a teacher, not a bride, but the same girl who broke her doll as a child and then asked for a new one. And I went and bought it. And what does Oleg say? I asked. Your fiancé. She looked away. I didn't tell him. About what? About the money. About the card. About the fact that you paid for everything. I said that everything was covered. That you helped, voluntarily. As a gift. He doesn't know that it was without your consent. I closed my eyes. It felt like a heavy curtain had fallen inside me. So you lied to him. I didn't want to stress him out. He already has a lot of work. And what difference would it make? I looked at my daughter, whom I had taught to be honest, sincere, and kind. And now she was standing in front of me, explaining why she lied to her fiancé. It's okay. Please, Mom, help me. Just this once. Just one more time. Then that's it. I promise. I sat down on the bench. Lena, we're going to sit down and talk. But it's not the conversation you're expecting. She froze. But she sat down next to me. tense, ready for a scene. But I just spoke calmly. Lena, when did you decide that I wasn't part of the family? What, Mom, when you had the engagement party, why wasn't I there? When you took the photo, why wasn't I in it? When you registered the card in your name, why didn't you talk to me? She lowered her head. I didn't want to burden you. You've been completely different since Dad died. Closed off. And we wanted to do things our way. Our way doesn't mean without me. I'm your mother. Pause. A long one. I'm sorry, I should have talked to you. You just took it, I interrupted. Without asking. And now you're saying, let's fix everything, as if it were all an accident. She cried. But now the tears weren't sad. They were angry. So you're going to abandon me? On the day my wedding falls apart? You're my mother, but you're acting like a stranger. You're losing your mind, aren't you? Because of your age. I'm not 15, Lena. I'm 62. And if this is a crisis, then it's a very useful one. Because for the first time in my life, I've started to choose myself. Then a message came from Tamara, saying if I needed help, she had coffee waiting. I smiled involuntarily. It's amazing how one warm message can be more supportive than hundreds of words from your own children. I want you to leave now, I said. Come back when we can talk like adults. Without shouting, without manipulation. Like people, not like a sponsor and a consumer. What conversation? You're growing old alone, Mom. You're digging your own grave. Nobody needs you anymore. No one will put up with you. Not Andre, not me, no one. You'll die alone, and there won't even be anyone to call the morgue. Those words hit me hard. Not even because of their meaning, but because of how easily she said them. As if she had prepared them in advance. As if she knew exactly when to strike. I got up. Goodbye, Lena. And I went into the house. I closed the door. I turned the key. She stood on the porch. She knocked on the door. She shouted, apologized, threatened. For about 20 minutes. Then she got in her car and drove away. I didn't cry. I wasn't angry. I just realized that my daughter was not who I thought she was. Perhaps the hardest thing was to stop believing in the illusion. After Lena left, the silence in the house became especially noticeable. It wasn't ringing like before, when I felt emptiness, but rather steady, as if the air had been cleansed. I walked through the rooms, everything neat, without anyone else's things, without the smell of Alina's sticks. I knew it would be hard going forward. That the calls and the pressure wouldn't stop. But now I had a different feeling inside. I made up my mind. By noon, the second front had begun. The first to arrive was Zhenya, Andrei's ex-wife, the one I had always been on good terms with. She stood in the doorway with an awkward smile. Galina Pavlovna, hello. Can we talk? Of course, come in, I said, and poured us some tea. Listen, Andrei called me. He said you two are having some kind of conflict. He asked me to come, saying that his mother had completely lost her mind. I don't want to interfere, but I can't stay silent either. He said that Lena is hysterical, the wedding is in jeopardy, and that you've cut them off financially. Zhenya, I said calmly, there would be no hysteria if adults lived on their own money. She lowered her eyes. Yes, I understand. It's just that Andrei is completely out of work right now, and it's hard for him. Zhenya, you're raising 2 children on 1 salary. And you're managing somehow. So anything is possible. She sighed and nodded guiltily. He's probably used to it. That Mom will always help out, she said quietly. And now Mom has decided to live like a human being, not like an ATM, I smiled. That's normal. Zhenya sat there for another 10 minutes, nodding and agreeing. I could see that she understood me, even though she didn't want to hurt Andrei. At the end, she said she would tell him that we were serious. After she left, there was a brief respite. But not for long. At 2 o'clock, a foreign car stopped at the gate. Oleg, Lena's fiancé, got out. Honestly, I always respected him. Quiet, well-mannered, reserved. A programmer at a large firm, he didn't seem to be struggling financially. But he didn't get involved in Lena's financial affairs, trusting her completely. "Hello, Galina Pavlovna," he said, slightly embarrassed. "Can I have a couple of minutes?" "Of course, come in." We sat on the terrace, where Kolya used to love to drink his evening tea. Oleg looked upset but not angry. "Lena told me, or rather, said something about the wedding." I wanted to apologize. "I didn't know she was using your card. I thought you offered to help." "No, Oleg. It was without asking." He sighed and ran his hand through his hair. "I was ready to pay half the expenses, but Lena assured me that everything was already covered." "That mom wanted to give a gift?" I believed her. If I had known the truth, I wouldn't have allowed it. I looked at him more closely. There was no excuse in his voice, only genuine regret. "Oleg, I'll be frank. I don't mind helping a little, but $1.5 million is my retirement savings. This is money I've been scrimping and saving for 30 years. "I understand," he nodded. "And I don't want you to suffer because of us." So he took an envelope out of his briefcase. "Here's half of what Lena spent. My share." I was taken aback. "Oleg, I can't take it." "You can," he said firmly. "It's only fair. I contributed to these expenses, even if I didn't know the details." I took the envelope. I looked at him and thought, here is a stranger who understands and respects me more than my own children. "What are you going to do next?" I asked. Oleg hesitated. "To be honest, I'm starting to have doubts. Marriage is a serious thing. And if we have secrets and lies from the very beginning, maybe it's better to slow down." I didn't try to dissuade him. I just said quietly, "The decision is yours. But you know, the sooner people open up, the less chance there is of ruining their lives." He nodded and left, and I sat there for a long time with that envelope in my hands. It wasn't just money, it was respect. And I hadn't received respect from my family in many years. In the evening, I called Tamara. "Come over," she said. "I have tea and apple pie." We sat in her kitchen and talked. She listened, and I shared about Oleg and Zhenya. "You see," she said, "there are still normal people in the world. They're just not always your relatives." I smiled. I said, "You know, I was afraid I would be completely alone. But now I think, maybe it's not so bad. Maybe it's a chance to find myself." She replied. The phone vibrated again. "Lena." This time the message was, "Mom, I'm sorry. Let's talk. I'll come tomorrow." I didn't reply. And for the first time in a long time, I fell asleep peacefully. I woke up to everything. It was quiet outside, only the sound of rain tapping on the leaves could be heard. It was the kind of weather when you don't want to rush anywhere. And at the same time, when everything inside is calm, truly calm. I made coffee and turned on the radio in the background. No anxiety, no tension. It's strange, really, that I lived for so many years waiting for a call, a request, a scandal. And now, not a single message, not a single complaint. And then there was a knock at the door. Quiet. Careful. I opened it. Lena. With wet hair, no makeup, wearing an old sweater. "May I come in?" she asked. "Come in." She came in and looked around. She sat down on the edge of the sofa, as if she were visiting a stranger. I put a cup of tea in front of her. "Mom, I've been thinking a lot. I realize I went too far. I was wrong. Really. I'm ashamed. Very." I was silent. I watched her wring her hands. I waited. "I'm confused," she exhaled. All this with the engagement, the preparations. Oleg distanced himself from me. He said we needed to take a break. And I was left with nothing. I didn't interrupt. Let her talk. I lied to him. About the money. About the card. About the fact that you agreed voluntarily. He was in shock. He said he didn't want to marry someone who manipulates people. She buried her face in her hands. I ruined everything. Mom, myself. You were right. I used you. For a long time. Without shame. I thought you owed me because you're my mother. But you're just a person. A tired person. I understand. Okay, I said calmly. What do you want now? She looked up. I don't know. I just wanted you to know that I'm sorry. Very sorry. Not about the wedding. About everything. What have I done to you over the years? I sighed. Lena, I'm not angry. But you have to understand, I'm not the person I used to be. I'm not going to live for other people's needs anymore. I have one life left. I want to live it for myself. She nodded. I understand, Mom. It didn't happen right away, but I understand. I'll try to give back everything I owe you. Not right away, of course, but I'll start. Money isn't the main thing, I replied. The main thing is respect. Without it, even a gift is like a handout. She fell silent. Then she said quietly, Can I hug you? I thought about it. And I allowed it. We hugged. But somehow differently. Not like mother and daughter, but like two grown women, each with her own guilt, pain, and decision. She left half an hour later. Calmly. No tears, no reproaches. She said she would start from scratch. That she didn't expect forgiveness, but wanted to become a different person. And I stood by the window and thought, maybe it wasn't all for nothing. Tamara came by for lunch. She brought pies. She saw Lena leaving. Everything is fine. I guess so, I replied. She came with apologies. Did I believe her? I don't know. We'll see by her actions. There were a lot of words. And now I want silence. We drank tea and discussed which variety of roses would survive the winter better. Then we talked about movies and books. Not words but children, pain, the past. As if life itself had decided that enough was enough. Now it's different. In the evening, Andre called. I answered. Mom, I want to talk too. Not now, but soon. I'm sorry I lost my temper. I was in shock. I'm not used to you having a temper. But I should be. Let's talk later, I said. Not everything at once. Okay. Thanks for answering the phone. Really. He hung up. And I was left in silence. It felt like autumn had come. Not cold, but real. With the last colors but already quiet inside. I washed the floor, made soup, took out an old blanket. I sat down on the sofa. I looked out the window. I'm not afraid to be alone anymore. Because being alone doesn't mean being unhappy. Sometimes it's just the beginning of a new, honest life. 2 days passed. The silence wasn't oppressive, on the contrary, it was as if my ears were resting. The phone didn't ring every 20 minutes. No one called me to the kitchen, asked me to stay until Friday, or left crumbs. Dirty cups, open windows in the bathroom. I started sleeping better. I ate slowly, without rushing. I read without distractions. Even the TV stopped being background noise. I watched old Soviet films without clicking the remote. And suddenly I realized that I was myself again. Not a nanny on call. Not a kind-hearted widow on duty. Just a woman with her own home, her own rhythm, her own desires. On the third day, Marina Lvovna, the lawyer, called. All the documents are ready. The will has been registered. The bank restrictions have been lifted. Everything is going according to plan. Thank you, Marina Lvovna. You have no idea how much you've helped me. I can imagine, Galina Pavlovna. I'll just say one thing, you didn't break up the family. You just finally straightened your back. I sat with the phone in my hand and felt those words sink in somewhere deep inside. I straightened my back. I didn't fight back. I didn't take revenge. I just straightened up. In the evening, I received a text message from Lena. She had found temporary work at a private kindergarten, looking after a group of toddlers. The pay was low, but she was managing on her own. Don't call me, I just wanted you to know. I didn't reply, but my heart warmed. Perhaps it's not words, but actions that are truly the best apology. The next day, Tamara invited me to the fair. The locals gathered to sell their pickles and pies, some knitted socks, others made toys. I bought myself a knitted sweater in the colors of spelt and cherry. I had wanted one for a long time, but kept putting it off. Tamara put her hands on her hips and said, "Well done. Otherwise, it's all about the children and grandchildren. And you're on your own. Stop putting yourself off. I see you've also had a serious makeover," I smiled, pointing to her bright blue scarf. "Well, now that we are officially women without the obligation to save everyone around us, we have to look the part," she said. We both laughed. While we were drinking tea in a street tent, a middle-aged woman I didn't know approached me. "Excuse me, are you Galina Pavlovna?" "Yes," I said, alert. "My name is Vera. I'm from that very fund. Where did you transfer part of your inheritance?" "From the Adult Literacy Center. I wanted to thank you personally. Thanks to your help, we are opening new directions, courses for the elderly. People over 60 can now learn to use a computer, fill out documents online, and not be afraid of the digital environment for free." I looked at her and suddenly felt a lump in my throat. Not from pain. From the fact that something important had been achieved. "Thank you," she said. "You've changed someone's life. And that means it wasn't in vain." When Tamara and I were walking home, I walked in silence. I was holding a bag of pies and a jacket, and only one thought was spinning in my head. I haven't disappeared. I've just become someone else. In the evening, I took out my old laptop. The very one that Kolya used to fiddle with when he was learning how to use Odnoklasniki. I turned it on, updated the system, opened a text document, and wrote Galina Pavlovna. 62 years old. Retired. Widow. Mother of 2 adult children. She spent her whole life helping everyone around her. But it was only at 62 that she learned to help herself. She stopped being convenient. She became honest. Not a saint, not perfect, just real. And you know what? It's the most important thing I've done in my entire life. I saved it. I closed the laptop. I turned off the light. And for the first time in many years, I went to bed without guilt, without anxiety, without fear. A week passed. During that time, there was not a single tantrum, not a single attack, not a single phrase, "You're a mother." The phone was silent. The house was quiet as if it had exhaled. And suddenly, the doorbell rang. Andre and Lena were standing on the threshold. Not together, each in their own coat, empty-handed. As if they had decided to come not to their mother, but to the person to whom they had to answer. I opened the door. "Hello," I said, calmly. Without joy, without resentment. Andre took the first step. "Mom, I want to apologize. Truly. I acted selfishly. I used you. I hid behind the fact that it was difficult for my son. But in reality, I was just too lazy to grow up." He lowered his eyes. "I'm living with a friend now. I got a part-time job, working as an assembler. It's unusual. But it's honest. I understand if you don't forgive me. I just wanted you to know that I'm not going back to the way I was." I nodded. "Thank you, Andre." Klania turned around. She was standing there, clutching a small notebook to her chest. "Mom, I didn't know how to make it up to you. How to earn your trust again. I thought about buying a gift, baking a cake, bringing money. But I realized that none of that was right. So I wrote a letter." She handed me the notebook. "It's all here. First to you. Then to Oleg. Then to myself. The other day, I gave up all the wedding fuss. I canceled everything. I decided that first I had to grow up as a person, and only then think about getting married. That's right, I said. And I really felt that she wasn't playing games. She wasn't making excuses. She had realized it. We sat in the kitchen. No tea, no food. We just talked. About Dad. About school. About how I once saved up for my first bike. About how we forgot to be people when we got too caught up in our roles. Mother, daughter, son, wife. And then they left. No drama. No need to get anything back. Just respect. And I was left alone. Again. But now, in the right kind of silence. The next morning, I woke up to the sun. I made myself some oatmeal, just the way I like it. I sat by the window. And suddenly a message arrived. Good afternoon, Galina Pavlovna. We would like to invite you to give a lecture for older women about boundaries, inner strength, and how not to lose yourself. Our center works with women over 50. Many of them are going through the same thing as you. Your story has inspired us. If you agree, we will be happy. I read the message 5 times. I couldn't believe it, and then I smiled. And I wrote back, yes. I'm ready. For the first time, not for someone else, but for myself. And for others like me. I turned off my phone. And I went to drink coffee. In my cherry-colored sweater. With a pie from Tamara. With roses under the window. I am 62. I am a widow. A mother. A woman. A person. And I, finally, am living not for everyone else, but for myself. Thank you for listening to this story to the end. If this story touched you, please like it, write a comment, and tell us if you've had similar experiences. What would you do in her place? This will help promote the video and give us the strength to create new stories. Thank you for listening. Be healthy. Live long. And truly.